The triple threat match wouldn't work anywhere else in the world. Unless all three people are in on it, how would it even go down? It would just be a big brawl that would probably continue until the end of time. I'm sure that's what anyone needs. When they're good though, my word, they're unreal. The sheer build, or the pace they erupt into, is wonderful, and when there's some genuine innovation put into the mix, you can't beat it. While we've seen some stinkers since WWE started with them, there's also been some classics, some of which you could even say are among the best the company has ever showcased. They've reached that kind of level. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is the 10 best WWE triple threat matches. Number 10, John Cena vs. Edge vs. Triple H at Backlash 2006. Some argue that 2006 wasn't a vintage WWE year, largely because we spent much of it watching Vince McMahon war with the newly formed DX, but matches like this one prove that there were moments to celebrate. It's hardly a shock that Backlash 2006's main event ended up being a classic either. The three men involved, though not exactly loved at the time, are all really good ring veterans who are good at putting together a nail-biting, drama-filled wrestling match. And if you don't think that's true, just go and watch this. It's right there, in front of your face. The only thing this perhaps didn't have going for it was unpredictability. There were one or two moments where it looked like Cena's title reign of doom might be in jeopardy, but the shadow of the Money in the Bank holder RVD looming large, never really that likely. Still, it's a terrific encounter with some genuinely great individual spots, including Triple H delivering a mean-looking spinebuster to a steel chair-wielding Lita, which was part of what led to his long-awaited face turn right around the same time. Because that makes sense. Beat up a lady, become a good guy. Number 9, Daniel Bryan vs. Batista vs. Randy Orton at WrestleMania 30. If you spent any time on the internet in 2014, and you know you did, don't lie, you'll already be familiar with the background to Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania 30 incredible journey, but it probably bears repeating one more time, if only because of how amazing it was and that for once, fans actually got what they wanted. Essentially, everybody's favourite Bryan was originally set to miss out on a place in the main event of Mania because of the return of Batista, who had won the Royal Rumble a couple of months earlier to set up a singles match with Randy Orton. A lot of us then got really upset about that, and after booing Big Dave out of the arena in the weeks that followed his comeback, we eventually forced Vince McMahon's hand. He yielded to the pressure and chucked Bryan into what was now a triple threat, and the rest is history. With the exception of Ric Flair, the former Ring of Honor star defeated every member of Evolution in just a couple of hours to capture the World Heavyweight Championship, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house when he scored the decisive pinfall. Number 8, CM Punk vs. The Miz vs. Alberto Del Rio at TLC 2011. The 434 days CM Punk spent wearing the WWE Championship around his waist between 2011 and 2013 sits squarely alongside the best in history. At least I think so anyway. What's remarkable about it is that the straight edge superstar pulled it off largely without true main event level opponents you would normally associate with wrestling's biggest prize. For a big part of his run, he was left fighting the likes of Alberto Del Rio, The Miz and Dolph Ziggler, who are, to be fair, mid-carders. One such match came at TLC 2011. Here, the future UFC star proved exactly why he was so valuable to his employers at the time by playing the starring role in what must be one of the best table, ladders and chair bouts of all time. Simply put, it was a match without any let-off. From the opening bell, the trio went at it as if the world was about to end and maintained the same breakneck speed for almost the entire 20 or so minutes they shared centre stage. It's a credit to all three for pulling this off as well as they did. So well done, gents. Well done. Number 7, Charlotte Flair vs. Becky Lynch vs. Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 32. More often than not, multi-woman matches at WrestleMania tend to go badly. Not because of the fault on the part of the competitors, but because they have too often been completely ignored by management. They're just there to provide a welcome break in proceedings for people to cool off before a better match comes along, or at least that's how the higher-ups see it. Just once, it'd be nice to see a pair of well-matched competitors fight for the women's title off the back of a solid build-up, and hopefully that's what we'll get at WrestleMania 34 with Asuka and whoever she chooses to face. Until then, we can always refer to the triple threat match shared by Charlotte, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 32, arguably the best female match the grandest stage of them all has ever seen. For some, this was actually the moment they realised WWE was now serious about focusing on women, rather than just sticking them in a bikini and telling them to strut around. Not only was it one of the best women's bout, but it was pretty comfortably the best on the entire Mania card too. Number 6, Edge vs. Triple H vs. Jeff Hardy at Armageddon 2008. As maiden world title wins go, only a handful in WWE history can truly hold a candle to Jeff Hardy overcoming all the odds at Armageddon 2008. Just never gonna happen. The build-up was largely spot on, even if Hardy did get suspended at one point, and the opponents, Edge and Triple H, were perfect. This was all everyone needed. Above all, the timing was impeccable because no one really saw it coming. We all thought that Jeff would be too risky a choice as SmackDown's top guy heading into WrestleMania, which seemed to point towards one of the others walking out with the belt. But for whatever reason, WWE decided this was time to throw the diehards a bone. Hardy got his confetti moment in front of an elated audience to crown his long journey to the promised land. An incredible moment, and a great match too. Number 5, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. WWE is said to be planning for Brock Lesnar to face Roman Reigns in the headline match of this year's WrestleMania. Some aren't best pleased with this idea, but if it's half as good as the last time they met on the big stage, things will probably be alright. Back then, what was meant to be a straight singles bout morphed into an impromptu triple threat after a briefcase-wielding Seth Rollins gate-crashed the party with what is arguably the best cash-in moment we've seen so far. In the WWE history books, it is claimed in doing so that Rollins interrupted what would have been a routine win and title coronation for Roman Reigns. The rest of us, however, remember that the big dog was about to take another F5. So shut up, WWE. Whatever the case, there's absolutely no denying that this was a main event worthy of gracing WrestleMania. In fact, to date, it's probably the last time that the company has really managed to deliver in the main event of the pay-per-view, and it therefore has to represent the benchmark when Roman and Brock take to the ring in New Orleans this year. Otherwise, people are gonna get mad. Number 4, Triple H versus Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels at Backlash 2004. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That apparently was the view of the WWE creative team after watching Triple H, Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit tear the roof off Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 20. Instead of building towards a new World Heavyweight Championship match during the next few weeks of Raw, they decided to book the exact same main event at Backlash. Their apparent laziness was duly rewarded too. This was pretty much every bit as good as the first encounter. The only thing Mania's Clash had that the sequel didn't was the feel-good moment with Benoit holding the belt aloft for the first time. He'd already seized the brass ring here and was always likely to retain in his first pay-per-view defense, although it couldn't be guaranteed, given this was 2004. Triple H was hanging around. Between this and the clash between Cactus Jack and Randy Orton, Backlash 2004 might well be the best brand-exclusive pay-per-view WWE has ever put on, but you can argue that in the comments. Number 3, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins at Royal Rumble 2015. For a match where the outcome was pretty much a foregone conclusion, Lesnar was never going to lose 2 months before Mania, while Rollins was never going to win with his Money in the Bank shot still pending, this was still a remarkably entertaining spectacle. Much of that is owed to the incredible work of Lesnar, who functioned as the glue that held everything together, despite being unconscious for a large chunk of it. It was when he popped up again for the final few minutes, breaking up a pinfall attempt that came within a fraction of a millisecond of being successful, that things became almost unbearably tense. For a brief moment, when Rollins surprised the Beast Incarnate with an attack from behind, it even looked like the result we all saw in the stars might not have been the correct one after all. The usually jaded crowd just became momentarily lost in the drama of it all, which is the sign of a great match. Of course, Lesnar retained and it was all a ruse, but that's what pro wrestling is at its best. When that happens, we all buy it. Number 2, The Undertaker versus Kurt Angle versus The Rock at Vengeance 2002. 15 years plus later, Vengeance 2002's star-studded headline match remains one of the most rewatchable in WWE history. The 3 men involved, with whom you might be familiar, are among the very best of all time. Apart from that, there's so much going on, with a finisher every 2 or 3 minutes and loads of close near-falls that are continuously broken up by some impeccably timed last-minute saves. It's completely engrossing, and that's with the knowledge of who wins. At the time, the excitement levels were through the roof, with each of the competitors having at least an outside chance of emerging with the spoils. In fact, with Undertaker in the midst of his short-lived heel run, and The Rock about to leave the squared circle behind for a career in Hollywood, much of the crowd's support came the way of Kurt Angle, who had put in one of the performances that proved he was capable of becoming a permanent main event fixture, which he did. It started long before this match, but this was still an important part of that journey. Number 1, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit, WrestleMania 20. When it was first announced that the headline match of WrestleMania 20 would be contested by 3 competitors, as opposed to the usual 2, some fans pretty upset. They argued that the tradition of having the Royal Rumble winner face the champion one-on-one shouldn't be tampered with. By the end of the show, however, that position was pretty much impossible to argue. The addition of a third man brought so much more drama to the story. Chris Benoit, the underdog and people's favourite, now had to overcome not 1, but 2 adversaries en route to winning the big gold belt. Besides which, technically speaking, there probably isn't a wrestling match in history that wouldn't have benefited from the involvement of Shawn Michaels. He always seems to bring out the best of his opponents, particularly Triple H. In the end, Benoit still got his moment, and he got it by beating 2 of the best wrestlers in the company. Without such an incredible title win, it would have been easy to write him off. With this, he was instantly legitimized.
Well, that was great, I agree. You can subscribe down here, check out some more of our videos over here, or check out some of our other channels right here.